So I'm just going to hit both of these. I got to see if I'm in. Okay, now I'm in video mode. And we're going. Daniel, what is the day? It's the 15th of
November 15th.
2024. All right. Play us on. What do you got? That was just beautiful, Dan.
Thank you. Home Sweet Home.
Home Sweet Home?
From Stephen Foster.
The Stephen Foster?
The Stephen Foster.
Really?
Yeah.
And did he write, that sounds like it was meant to be played on a guitar. Is that how it was written?
I don't think so. It was probably like clawhammer banjo or ukulele.
Wow, okay.
Or both.
So is that your arrangement of it
Yeah.
then? That is just beautiful. And you just literally pulled that out of your ass just now.
Literally.
You've been sitting on that for a while?
Yeah, that melody is so catchy.
It is.
I mean, and it's 3 chords.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that it was a folk tune when you were playing it. And I was trying to draw back from my childhood listening to the old country, which that would have been. But I couldn't draw it up. So
you know, Earl Scruggs may have done it.
Okay. Okay. Well, it sure felt familiar in spaces, so Stephen must have gone to the well at some point. Yeah. We're here to talk about your journey through the well.
Among other things.
Yeah, so I'm interested to know the first recordings you heard as a boy, the things that got you excited when you were a boy.
I can remember a couple of things.
Yeah.
Okay, for one, Elvis.
You liked that?
I liked Elvis.
Was James in the band by then?
Not yet.
Okay.
That was in Scotty Moore's era. I heard the first few of those.
Okay, okay.
Like That's All Right, Mama, and so forth.
Okay, so I didn't draw the distinction between the two guys.
Yeah, and of course, the Beatles right behind them, you know.
Are you a Harrison, a Lennon, or a McCartney?
Harrison.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, love them all.
The smart guys are.
Yeah, yeah. The geekies, the geeky guys are George fans.
But you know, he made melodies with guitar shapes and guitar chords. That was just beautiful. Something is one of the most beautiful songs I think I've ever heard.
Frank Sinatra thought so, right?
Yeah, yeah. So those were the first recordings you were listening to.
That I can remember.
And can you remember what you were listening to them on? What machine?
One of those little turntables that only played 45s.
Really?
Yeah.
I can picture
My older brother had one.
Okay.
Yeah.
The internet believes that you're from Chattanooga, Tennessee, but I recall Georgia.
Yeah, there's a border town to Chattanooga on the other side of the Georgia state line called
Okay.
Fort Oglethorpe.
Okay.
Yeah,
And that's where you actually grew up?
that's where our house was.
Okay. Yeah.
But everybody went to Chattanooga to do anything.
Right.
I mean,
Okay.
Fort Oglethorpe at the time was one of those look both ways, you've seen the whole town.
We have that in common too. Yeah.
That's right.
Did you have a main street?
We did have a main street.
Yeah. Was it big enough for a stoplight?
Yeah, because it was also a highway.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. So, how did you get started playing? I mean, what was there a guitar in the house?
My oldest brother had a guitar at the time.
Should I be interviewing your oldest brother?
Well, he's no longer with us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm
But-
sorry.
Oh, he was a character,
Was he?
and he was a good player
Okay.
and good singer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And he had just picked it up on his own?
I think he had taken it up in the military.
Okay. Okay, so he was a lot older than you.
Yeah, he's 16 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
So he took it up when he was in the military, I believe,
Okay.
and then came home already pretty accomplished.
Right.
Yeah.
And did he leave a guitar at the house when he went to the...
When he went to work, his guitar was at the house.
Oh.
So as long as I didn't mess it up too bad, I was allowed to play it.
He let you...
Yeah.
What was it?
I believe it was a Gibson J45
Oh.
of all things.
Yeah.
So it was a nice guitar.
So he showed you the chords and that stuff?
Yeah.
And then how did you learn after that?
His friends and a lot of my friends. I had some slightly older friends.
Okay.
You know, a couple of years is a lot when
Yeah.
you're 10 years old.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
somebody who's 12, they know a lot more.
Uh-huh.
And I had this friend whose dad was in a country band,
Okay.
and we both, my friend Joe and I, would both kind of swipe licks from his dad.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and songs.
Wow. So,
Yeah.
so you're, and then are you practicing with people, or are you just hanging out by yourself? Or?
I was practicing with a lot of people.
Okay. When was the first gig then?
The first gig, I think, was a school dance, not at the school I was going to,
Okay.
but a school dance. Maybe the drummer was going to this particular junior high,
Okay.
and we played a trio at a school dance.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did all you kids bump into each other?
Friends of friends. The first two of us, my friend Joe and I, went to the same school.
Okay.
And a friend of his said that he knew a drummer
Oh,
that
all right.
lived near us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we probably practiced up maybe 10 songs
Where, at your place?
at the drummer's place.
Okay.
Because, as you know, as people do now, you go where the drums are set up because they're not going to move them to you most of the time.
You ever see a drummer pick up a guitar amp?
Never.
Neither have I.
No. I'm sure it's happened, but I have never seen it.
Yeah.
But we've picked up many drum sets.
I think we've picked up a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got a band together with
Little
these
dance
friends?
band, yeah.
And that were you able to stay busy with that after a while?
Not really,
Okay.
but we did get the occasional gig and practice a lot.
Okay.
And my multi-instrumentalist friend Joe was a good singer,
Okay.
so he would lead sing.
All right.
Which, like, boy, if you know a 12-year-old kid that can lead sing,
Oh yeah.
man,
Let's make a record.
yeah, hang on to him.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Yeah, so that worked out all right. And you mentioned that you had some friends that were older than you too.
yeah.
So were these guys your age or older?
We had middle brothers in the family too. So the next older brother
Okay.
was a multi-instrumentalist, and his friends were guitar players.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
You were surrounded.
I was surrounded by all these different little show-offs.
Yeah.
You know,
So what were you listening to at that point?
well, rock and roll a lot,
Okay.
and stuff was starting to learn to sing country songs
Okay.
because one of the records that was in the house, I don't know who bought it, but there was a double 45 of Buck Owens. I believe one side was Tiger by the Tail.
Yeah.
I think the other side was Gonna Have Love One More Time,
All right.
featuring the great
Don
Rich.
Rich.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember noticing that their labels looked like the Beatles labels
Okay.
at the time. So they must have shared a record company.
Yep. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what attracted me to Larry Carlton. It was his cover. I thought, well, cool looking guitar, good hair. I'll try it.
Was it an LP?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he did have some nice looking cover photos.
Yeah. Yeah.
With those nice guitars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love those albums.
So Don Rich is, I think what you may have keyed in with that is that you brought up Scotty Moore right away, and I brought up James, but James Burton, of course.
The great.
Yeah, but it seems like all of these artists and so many artists, it's been that the person singing the second harmony and the guitar parts that kind of formed the sound. There's so many of these men and women, but Pete Anderson.
Oh, what a guy.
That kind of stuff. So was Don like the first one that you noticed was playing that role?
In country, yes.
Okay.
Who was almost like a second leader, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. That's kind of been your role, at least here from when I've known you, is you've been the power piece behind the headliner to make it all work.
Oh, thanks. What I call a second chair,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That's what we called a second chair when I was a kid.
Okay.
Is the person who was singing harmony and soloing when
Yeah. Okay.
necessary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did you start finding work outside of your friends then, playing guitar?
At about 16.
Okay.
Yeah. Started joining other guys and subbing for people. And
Okay. And you could start to play in clubs and stuff then?
Yeah.
Yeah, where alcohol was
Yep.
present?
Yeah. If you had an adult with you,
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So tell me about that. Like, were they country bands, rock bands, all of the above?
mostly country,
Okay.
because most of the people running the gigs at that time, they would give you a little preference if you were a second singer.
All right. Yeah.
The guys that didn't want to be second singers, who may have been great players,
It didn't matter, did
that
it?
didn't matter.
Yeah.
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 Funny, that's still the case now sometimes.
There's a high value in being a strong backy, being a background vocalist.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because, I've watched you play a lot, and recently.
Very recently.
Yeah, I've watched you play a lot. But it seems like you're always respecting what the core of the song. You're never jumping into some kind of a production technique to make it something it's not.
Yeah, you don't need to do that with that music.
Yeah.
I mean, all those great authors and players and singers, they don't need my help. What they did was good.
Yeah. 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 You support well, because it's this. I watch players in the studio and live. How they meld back into the rhythm section shows me more about who they are than their lead.
Oh, tells you everything you need to know, probably.
You come off the gas pedal so nice, and it's just laid back there, so it felt like a transition. And yes, you're playing a vital role, but it's tucked right back in there. And to me, that's where the expert in the discipline lies. Is right how you make those transitions.
Yeah, I don't think most singers don't really care if we can solo great or not.
No, as long as we're
They
smiling.
don't mind it, but
I just smile through it real big.
exactly. Yeah,
Hey, wow, he's great.
yeah.
But hey,
Yeah, being positive's more important.
yeah, yeah. Well, that's another thing that's just been consistently serving you, I think, through your whole career is that you've I've never seen you make a wave, and I think we've been working.
Oh, I've done
together.
it, but you haven't been there every time. Thank goodness. Yeah,
I think
we've all done it.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I recall some of the early ones, and I just think to myself,
What
"Wow."
was I thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
It's a journey. So, were you playing enough that you didn't like need a hustle when you were in high school, like after school to have bread?
I wasn't playing that much.
Okay.
So I had different jobs.
What kind of jobs?
My first job, I worked as a delivery person at the hospital my mom worked at,
Okay.
where she was working in administration.
All right.
But so I was one of the people that was moving carts around.
A runner, so to speak.
A runner, yes.
Yeah.
There were 4 or 5 runners every
Wow.
shift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you work every day?
Yeah, I worked second shift after school
All right.
until I got out of high school.
Yeah.
Then I went on first shift for a while.
Okay.
For a couple of years.
You stuck with it.
I stuck with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. You kind of locked on.
I locked on. I probably worked there 4 years.
Okay. So what was the tectonic shift at that 4th year?
A friend of mine said said that they needed a person, or needed a guy to work work on a bottle line
Okay.
at a medicine factory. So I worked on a bottle line for a couple of years.
I'm right back with the crew.
Yeah, I was right back with the crew, and that was one of those jobs where everybody wore gray shirt and gray pants, and they supplied it,
Yeah.
and it was shift work, you know.
Right. Right. How long did that last?
That was 2 years.
All right. But did you put some money away and get?
Yeah, I was putting a little money away to get some equipment,
Yeah.
buying slightly better guitars and trading, you know,
Yeah.
working on the weekends or
Yeah.
playing on the weekends.
So, what kind of amplifier did you start with?
I had, I believe, I had a Silverface Fender Vibrolux.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
like the first pretty good amp I got.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time I got a Gibson guitar, which was probably right out of high school. I got an ES355.
Yeah.
And I plugged it into that Vibrolux, never having played a Gibson guitar before, not an electric guitar anyway.
Yeah.
And I remember plugging into that amplifier, turning it up to about 4, which
Yeah.
is
Plenty.
still going to be pretty loud.
That's plenty.
And I remember hitting an A chord, like really pretty hard. And I thought, oh, that's what I'm hearing on rock and roll radio.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how they're doing that.
Yeah.
You know how they'll break up or they'll distort just a little bit, you
Yep.
know?
Yep.
And I remember thinking, oh, that's Joe Walsh.
Wow.
Yeah. Because
Wow. What year are we in here right now?
now we're in about 75 or 76.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So the Smoker You Drink was out.
Yeah.
The what is it? The smoker you drink, the higher you.
The player you get.
Yeah, the player you
What
get.
I know. The Roger Miller of rock and roll.
Yeah.
He was.
He was. He was.
Still is.
We were listening to the same stuff, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
Well, if you wanted to hear good guitar, you're going to listen to Joe Walsh, you're going to listen to the Beatles, Hendrix.
Who did you think at that time was the greatest guitar player?
Pretty soon, I was thinking Duane Allman and Dickie Betts were.
Okay.
And That's not far off.
Yeah,
I mean, in that era.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. They were probably stretching the instrument for sure
Yeah.
during that time.
And Joe Walsh was too.
But with all these people that I'm hearing you talk about, I'm not getting to the finger style that you're seeing. So as far as your guitar technique, I don't think on your record that you really used a flat pick unless I ask you to, just for a slice of time.
On one or two tunes, yeah.
Were you a thumb pick in these days that you're talking about?
Sometimes.
Okay.
If-
Why? Who did you see that led you there?
The country bands.
Did Don Rich play with a thumb pick?
No, but the local country bands, there were lots of kind of Chet Atkins disciples.
Yes.
You could see.
Yes. They were about 20 years older than we were.
Yes,
Yep.
but they had gigs,
Uh-huh.
and you know, you could go to their gigs on Fridays and Saturdays.
Right.
And
Was there one guy that you were like noticing and trying to emulate that was local at all?
not yet.
Okay.
But I was hearing things like this.
Yeah.
And it was from those Chet Atkins players, and sometimes maybe Merle Travis players too.
I'm picturing them on Gretches.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there were plenty of Gretches around.
Yeah.
There was a local Gretsch dealer even.
Okay.
That I remember.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
God, I didn't know. I didn't know.
I mean Chattanooga had a Gretsch dealer that was also a I think Emmons steel guitar dealer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a specialty shop.
Yeah, I mean, and that was like the country hang,
Yeah.
the local players or whatever.
If I said the name Clem Schmitz, are you gonna know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that was an Emmons dealer in Minneapolis, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That was up the street from where I worked, because I worked at Sunnison Music.
You did.
Yeah,
Okay.
starting in about '87,
All right.
and I remember Clem was the Emmons dealer, and Roger, my boss, was the Showbud dealer.
Uh-huh.
Remember, there was always that little war going on, right? Because they're in the same price ranges.
I found myself in a road band with Clem's son, David, who had been taught by Paul Franklin and those cats.
Okay.
He taught me grabs. That those guys all had a certain grab, and you used a steel guitar grab.
Sort of.
A lot of the time.
Yeah.
I was exposed in central Iowa about this time to people that played both steel and guitar. So
There were a lot of those.
So I think that's maybe why everyone was on thumb picks. Part of it.
Part of it is they would just leave their thumb pick on.
Yeah.
Sometimes leave their finger picks on too. But they usually play guitar with just their thumb pick.
Okay.
And then they would put their finger picks on when they switched to steel, and they're usually just sitting on the same bench, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, the guy you just described, I don't think I ever met, but
Yeah.
was he playing guitar also?
No, he was just strictly steel.
Okay.
But the guys early in my career, where we were just talking about, because I was witnessing the thumb picks too, and so
Yeah.
I did go thumb pick for the first couple of years playing country, and then I went back to the flat. But that's when I did the hybrid thing.
Yeah, that little set of techniques, I think, was becoming kind of mainstream Nashville because of the players.
Yeah.
You would hear the Albert Lee
Yep.
kind of guys, or the James Burton, that school.
Yeah.
You know, they were on everything.
Yeah. At that time, you know, and then it changed to Brent Mason and those cats, and undeniable great players that I came from. You know, they're born of Albert. So many of us are born of Albert in that.
Oh yeah,
You know, he's our godfather.
yeah. That's a good word for it.
Yeah.
He made the world safe for Telecasters. You know. I mean, you know, though, that sound falls in and out of favor
Yeah, it does.
on the radio, but I think it wasn't long before thanks to Emmylou Harris and a few other people, that, yeah, bands that sounded like that just took over the mainstream country thing.
There was a minute there in the 80s, right in that early, and my dad was bringing those records home. In particular, he pointed me to an Emmylou Harris, I'm Moving On, when she did that, and Albert played this just simple but he was right in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know, and it was gorgeous, and the old man is pointing at me like, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, okay, yeah.
I don't think he had any choice but to play that, because that Hank Snow melody is so definitive.
Yeah, you had to honor the melody.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't rip on that.
You can't change that.
No.
That's like changing a surf guitar melody.
Yeah,
Nobody's going to recognize the song.
yeah. So, when did you actually hear Chet Atkins then?
Probably when I was 11 or 12.
Okay, all right.
And I think one of my brother's friends, I was asking him to show me something else, but he showed me how to play Cannonball Rag.
Okay.
And what I was bugging him about showing me was maybe some Stephen Stills.
Oh.
And I and I think he said, well, you need to learn this first.
Okay.
He said, you need to learn to play Cannonball Rag first, because it's got all the same right-hand patterns in it.
Okay.
And a little light bulb goes off when you hear those two guys mentioned at the same time. It's, oh, Stephen Stills was well trained in fingerstyle and classical
Okay.
before he became a songwriter.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I never knew that about Stephen Stills, to be honest.
And then this same local player, this same friend of my brother's, told me that Stephen had made like an entire acoustic solo album, like all in one big take.
Oh, wow.
Because when one song ends, he would just by ear tune his guitar to the next song and just start playing it. Yeah, you can hear him tuning it.
Wow.
And it goes, I'm sure I should be able to name this album, but it escapes me. But he did the whole album by himself, singing and playing, all in one big take.
Wow.
8 or 10 songs.
No kidding.
I know, what a guy. That's when people knew that guy's an acoustic guitar like Superman.
Yeah. I had no idea. I was listening to all the country stuff. I didn't get over to that side of the radio.
He maybe that was around the same time that band called Manassas was together, which might have contained Chris Hillman.
Oh, okay. All right.
So those people's paths were crossing, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's funny how when you're into a certain music, the people show up. How does that happen?
I don't know.
But they do. It's
They
like,
do.
I like this, and next thing you know, you're surrounded with people that like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I have no idea, but it does happen that way.
Yeah, well, just to know that, you know, in your youngest years, you know, you've already got an axe and a bunch of people around you that can play it. Yeah, you know.
That's all. Then all you have to do is pay attention
Yeah, I think so.
and keep showing up.
Keep showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, keep showing up is a big one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest one.
Your
'Cause something good's going to happen if you show up.
We were calculating our careers, and I've been working in music for 41 years now.
Man.
Yeah, and you got 3 years on me, I think. Would you put
Maybe
it at
45.
Yeah, would you put it at 45 years?
I would put it about 45 years.
Yeah.
With other jobs too.
That's
in a lot
amazing.
Of cases.
And when I look back and think of all the orbits and all the associations there's been through all of that, it's crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And can you imagine in the 80s when we were out playing every night and just swinging it, talking people into going and doing it with us?
I don't know how we pulled it off.
How did we do that?
Man, people were as crazy as we were.
There's something wrong with them.
Yeah.
Something wrong with us.
And of course, the playing part is so fun.
Yeah, yeah. It's great. It's great. I'm going to just look. Okay, we're at 30 minutes, and I'm going to make sure that the cameras are all still acting right. And they are. So that's perfect. All right. So let's talk a little more about this thumb pick. Which ones do you use?
Bailey, I get them at Willie's Guitar.
Okay.
And you can get them online now, but they don't break, and they're not very tight.
Oh, that is a different looking thing.
Yep. Like you push it onto your thumb, it stays right there.
Wow, okay. And then that gives you a lot of texture in how you bite.
Yeah.
With it. So do you bite sideways sometimes?
Yeah.
If you wanted to chime, you can do that.
You can chirp with these, just like a flat pick.
Right.
Because the little tip is not so long.
Yeah, so you can get your finger in there to give it the flesh that it needs to chime.
Exactly, to choke choke the real note off.
Yeah, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I love that thumb pick. I didn't even know. I thought it was just your standard old pick. But yeah, there's
no. I used to use the the big white Nationals.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, those are good too.
The only thumb pick I have is my Nationals because of my banjo. So
yeah.
I on a guitar it sounds terrible. It's too much steel. So
it's a metal pick like Johnny Winter used.
Yeah, yeah. So I can't do that. I dig too hard.
Yeah,
yeah.
Well, should try some of these.
I guess I ought to.
Yeah.
I've been watching you do this, and when I was figuring out, Chet, there's this to figure out to play the bass. So tell me how you got your mind around being the bass player and the guitar player on a fretboard. You know what I'm talking about, right? How you split the guitar in half almost, and the thumb is the first three, and how did I never made that work for myself?
Well, I learned Cannonball Rag.
Okay.
Has that built into the arrangement.
Okay.
And once you can play that, because that has quite a few chords compared to a lot of things.
Okay.
The licks in it apply to other songs.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they all do.
They all do, right.
Yeah.
But I believe Chester, Doc Watson, and Merle Travis had more going on the bass thing than maybe even their contemporaries.
Okay. Yeah?
Yeah. And it never seemed to get away from their biggest three strings very often.
Okay.
So their fingers were free to get as much of that melody as you can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess with the thumb, I guess it's do you use the ring finger much? Because I'm watching.
Very little.
It seems like you're on these, so that you could hybrid.
Yeah, I do sometimes. If you just grab this.
Yeah. Okay.
Then that ring finger gets in there a little more.
All right. Yeah.
But
so it's rare that you go to this guy though.
Rare.
On your right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For instance.
Yeah, in rhythms that are footballs.
That's very Merle Travis. I mean,
yeah. And the magic of that whole thing right there is that slide down, which you're not looking for. It fools the ear into thinking this is not right. This is cool.
Yeah. It puts a little bit of, I guess, what Thelonious Monk would have said, keeps a little wrong in it.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
so many of those players from that era that we were talking about with your steel friends, they were playing really odd chords that I'm still not convinced exist. Dissonance. They use dissonance to.
they knew what you could put up against any official chord in a song.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of passing strokes
Yeah.
like that, you know.
Yeah, I mean that's an A seventh, a D seventh, and a G. The official chord in some songs is just a D seventh and a G.
Okay.
But you would hear this out of some of those players.
Yes. Yeah,
It's
okay.
that extra chord,
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
and they would convince us, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were dancing around and making it joyous, you know, in the rhythm section with all of that stuff. I think that maybe Albert kind of hybrid off of a lot of that.
Yeah.
But he was also an English rocker,
Yep.
and somehow he landed with that.
I think he fit it around his technical gifts,
Yeah.
which would be, to me, it's speed for one thing,
Yeah.
and his accurate bending.
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean there are entire solos that Albert Lee took. That anybody that plays that song, they have to play the Albert solo note for note.
Yeah. Yeah. There are, and another case in point of that is, in the Eagles, Steve Smith, taking Felder's gig. He's playing just real airtight, man, on what those parts were. 'Cause
You have to.
You have to. Yeah. He gave it a little of his own, just so you and I know it, but not the audience.
But yeah, those Hotel California solos, they're note for note.
Yeah.
You can't change that.
No, you can't. No.
That's like changing Moonlight Sonata
Yeah.
or something.
Now, I've done a lot of cover songs this year, over 40 of them, I guess.
That's a lot.
That's a lot, yeah. But there's two schools of thought there. You cover it as it should be, or you completely change it. Make it something rhythmically and sonically and everything different.
You can.
Yeah, so then I would let somebody deviate from the solo.
Yeah, because you already have.
Right, yeah. But man, if they're playing it straight down the road, you better too.
If it's from one of those institutions, like those guys are,
Yeah.
that's what people are used to hearing.
Yeah.
For good reason.
Yeah. Dan Lund, another friend of ours from the city here, he was talking about his son becoming a really a shredder,
Yes.
and good at shredding.
Yeah.
And Dan was trying to get him to pump the brakes, and so he just says, look, just take one note, bend it up, and look up at the waitresses. Okay, that's
He's not wrong.
That's how you get their attention.
Yeah,
now
he's not wrong.
no, he wasn't wrong.
That's a funny illustration of it too, of course.
Yeah.
That's very Dan Lund,
Well, I benefited because that was about the time when I was going through the end of my technical phase. Did you go through a technical phase where you were able to do almost anything that you had in your head, and so you overplayed?
I may have overplayed, but it's not because I was any more capable.
Okay.
I was just lizard brain or something.
Yeah.
There's that too.
Yeah.
And then, there's always guys that'll correct you, yeah, man, that's cool, but tone that down,
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a 3-minute song. Yeah.
I had a bass gig, and the night before I was just flowing, and everything was just coming out of me, new lines, just crazy stuff, and I was like on a roll. So I'm trying to hit that the next night, and the drummer just comes over and says, "Feeling a little busy tonight, aren't you?"
Yeah.
So,
see?
Yeah.
There's always somebody to correct you.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you recall that when you went full time then into music? Do you recall about when that was?
Late 1979.
Okay.
I forget how this band found out I was around because we were in 2 different towns.
Okay.
But it's probably a friend of a friend just said, I'll fill in for 2 weeks, but I know this other guy that might join,
Yeah.
But this band called Rawhide was
Okay.
looking for a guitar player to replace a leaving one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
What kind of stuff were they playing? It sounds like
straight country, you know.
straight country.
And I mean, the lead singer, he was a multi-instrumentalist,
Okay.
but one of the things he was good at was singing like Ray Price.
Oh,
Yeah.
smooth.
So
and-
one of those guys.
Yeah.
I guess we would call that a crooner back
Yeah.
in that era, right?
Yeah.
So not a growler, a crooner.
Now I know that Buddy was in that band, but who was the guitar player in Ray Price's band at that time? Do you remember?
Grady Martin did a stint.
Okay.
Johnny Paycheck did a stint, I think.
Lead guitar.
Yeah, and also bass.
Okay.
That'd be where some of those songs came from. And also Willie Nelson did a stint playing bass.
He did. He did. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Well, and he got the cut too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
He got-
they figured. Yeah, though they figured out the green angle of that very quickly.
Yeah.
In either case,
yeah. Yeah.
but in that band, the smooth playing was encouraged, and rock playing only on rock songs. You know what I mean?
I didn't hear many of those, but yeah, I do know what you mean.
I mean that school of band. That's how they had their players play.
Yeah.
Is we only want the Stonesy sounding riffs on the rock songs.
Yeah. Wow. So you're full time now with Rawhide. Are you playing locally, or are you going regional?
We were going everywhere,
Oh, you're on the road.
U.S. and Canada,
Oh,
and we went to Europe for the USO one time too.
did you?
Yeah,
So you put your life in a bag and stayed on the road.
for 5 years.
That's how we did it back
That's
then.
how we did it. 'Cause, as you know, they wouldn't hire you if you didn't commit to a year.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of those guys
Yeah. Yeah.
say, "I don't want to be going through this again in a month. So
Yeah.
can I count on you for a year?" You know,
It's so important in this business.
it's
Reliability.
reliability.
Yeah.
Because then you build up, as they said where I grew up. Yeah, then that gives you time to put together some stuff. You know, right?
Yeah. 18 months, I figure, is kind of where, everybody knows each other pretty well now. We could probably write some great songs,
Oh yeah, pretty much. It wasn't it Chris Christopherson of all folks that said anybody that can play music and sing, he said they've got at least one great song in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Man, that's a positive tutorial right there.
It is.
Everybody should write a song at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's, if it weren't for songs, we wouldn't have any work at all.
Right.
I mean, not a thing. And then if it weren't for artists, we wouldn't have any work at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that we can't do without.
A lot of these people we just mentioned, and shout out to Bob Dylan too,
Yeah.
invented our job.
Yeah, sure they did. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, Chuck Berry, all the guitar greats we just mentioned, they
Yeah.
kind of invented our job,
Yeah. I think they did.
and they didn't know they were doing it.
No. No. But do you know what you're doing right now?
No.
See, I think it's a journey. It's a journey, but you've been very busy since then, and you moved to Minneapolis about 86?
Late 86.
Okay. Yeah. And what caused you to do that?
I liked it here when I played here.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's still a bar in Hopkins that's it's still a music venue, but it was a country like oriented place in the middle 80s that I played at.
I'm sure I played the club.
I know you did.
There's bricks, and it's a single story.
Yeah, and it's a long, narrow room.
Bingo.
Yeah, I think everybody on the circuit played at that place.
I want to say it was the Hitchin something. It wasn't the Hitchin Post, because that was in St. Cloud. It was something.
But it had one of those stereotype country bar names like the Silver Dollar.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't that, but it sounded like that.
Yeah.
And it was a good little source of gigs, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this was, you probably know this too, this was a city where musicians went and saw musicians.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you meet people at about twice the rate you would in Chicago or something.
Yeah.
Chicago, it's too hard to get anywhere.
Okay.
I mean,
yeah. This is a really open city for that, or it was in those days.
it kind of still is. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. You got here 2 years before I did. But man, like the Blues Saloon was going, that jam session.
It was going. Everybody came over there.
Yeah.
Like the headliner guys came there.
Well, the first time I ever met our friend Joe Savage was at the Blues Saloon.
Yeah.
And he was wearing a beret. And he was playing the shit out of a harmonica.
Yeah. Was he playing steel guitar there too?
No.
Okay.
He just jumped up for one.
Yeah.
And he was the coolest cat, man.
He was and is.
Yeah. Yeah, and I couldn't believe that he was actually the steel guitar player in town. After seeing that, I thought for sure he was the blues cat.
Right. He kind of has two careers going.
Yeah.
Well, more than that, but those two for sure. And plus he builds things.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, has all these crafts. But yeah, Joe was the first guy I went and saw play because the music store I was trying to get a job at, Son of Some Music, told me that Joe, who was teaching there, said he's playing in this band called Whiskey River. You should go see him.
With Judd.
With Judd, yeah. Judd and Joe and Mike Lockwell.
Okay.
And maybe Mark Stevens.
All right.
Yeah, it was a good band.
I was hearing about you. Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so Joe plugged me into knowing people really quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, what a guy. And that was a really good band. I mean, when you just got here and you go see a band that's playing that well and they sound like a headliner band, you're not thinking, yeah, I want to get out of here.
Right.
You're thinking, oh, I want to be in a band like those guys are.
Yeah. Yeah. So you found them.
Yeah, thanks to the guy that became my boss later, Roger Sunnison.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where was Sunnison?
On Lake Street and 16th.
Okay. And you worked there a long time?
I think 9 years.
Wow, pretty good stint.
Yeah, it was a pretty good stint.
What did you do? Were you setting up guitars?
I was setting up guitars, teaching guitar sometimes, and just doing general retail work.
Right.
So
yeah,
unload the trucks, you know.
Oh yeah.
Clean the store.
Yeah.
Answer the phone.
All the shit needs done.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's what people call bricks and mortar retail now.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you do. You clean the store. You take care of the customers. I mean, I met David Bowie in that place.
Did you really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
He walked in. We just opened, so there's only me and the manager there.
Okay.
And Jimmy, my manager, just does this, kind of taps me to make me look up, and he said, "That's David Bowie." And I said, "Are you going to talk to him?" He said, "No, you are." So I had to.
Yeah. So you did.
So I did, and he bought a saxophone.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And I believe maybe a week later, I saw him play that saxophone on the Arsenio Hall show.
Oh, funny.
Yeah.
That's great.
We sold him a saxophone. Yeah. He was quite the negotiator.
Was he?
He was.
He wanted a deal.
He wanted the best deal he could get. Yeah.
Okay.
It's that reputation like Jimmy Page has.
Okay.
You know, like he doesn't overpay for things.
Okay.
Even though he's quite wealthy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A little of that, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, did you make a profit for for the company anyway.
I think we did okay.
Okay.
I think he wound up getting a 20% off retail.
All right. Yeah.
Which, as you know, your retail, well, you still make a little money on that.
Well, you can't tell them the truth.
No. And he knew we weren't telling him the truth. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
You know, you touched on being a guitar tech, and we talked a lot making the record here about you know how the guitars are set up, and sometimes the guitar wasn't ready to be played like that.
Right. Not right off the truck.
Yeah.
It's just right out of the factory with the basic things on it.
Could you just run down the sequence? Because you know, I kind of start truss rod, get it, and then I have a kind of a sequence. Do you have a sequence?
I do the same thing.
So you
Yes.
yeah.
Get if it has a rod in it, which these do, get your first fret, you know, a 1/16 of an inch or less.
Okay. From so then
From
that's,
the- from
that's
the first
naked.
fret.
That's not with any pressure here. It's just
Yeah.
right off the nut.
Yep.
Okay.
Because what? If you look at that on the Big E string, that'd be about a 1/16 of an inch.
Yeah.
And then Joe Walsh, in one of his tutorials, says, and if you can get it ever so slightly lower and not have it start buzzing everywhere else, try it.
Try it. Yeah.
And when you find the sweet spot, which is like as low as you can get it without it buzzing anywhere else, then do everything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Was that Starlicks?
Yeah, it was Starlicks, and it's probably on YouTube now.
It is on YouTube.
That little, and I think he was specifically referring to Les Pauls.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
like how to set up a Les Paul. But
Yeah.
yeah, see if you could get that Big E string to about a 1/16 of an inch,
Yeah.
and if it'll give you a little more,
Go.
or yeah, try that. But if it starts buzzing, then back it off.
So you get that with your truss rod. Then what
Yeah.
do you do?
Then if it's an electric guitar, then you start working those bridge saddles
Okay.
for the same idea.
Get
Get
'em
them as low as you can without it starting to buzz, and then start setting the intonation thing.
All right.
Where that note sounds like that note.
Yeah. Okay. What about the nut? Do you go to the nut much? Usually when I'm trying to get, sometimes when we're playing and we're playing hard,
Yeah.
our money chords down here start to buzz.
Yes.
And it could be, I even get down and listen, but it's rarely actually up here.
It's rarely up there.
Yeah, but it's a combination of all of them that's
Yeah.
making it do that. And so that's why I just raised the whole thing up here.
Yeah.
I suppose it could be done back here, but there's an angle, and then if you get it too high, you can't physically play the lick.
Right.
So it's such a dance.
You're
Is there a way that you measure that nut? Or
well, I think now they come already set pretty well.
Yeah.
They used to not. They
Yeah.
used to come with some really,
I wear mine down, my
Yeah.
G strings. I wear them down.
well, yeah, the bending, I think, wears the slot down.
Yeah.
That's true. So, you know, then after if that happens, then you got to replace that thing eventually.
Yeah.
Because the slots are too low.
It took me on that telly there. I've got that graphite bridge in there, or
Yeah.
nut. I carried that for over 10 years, scared to put it in. Because I didn't want to mess up the guitar.
Right.
And then finally, I'm
You're
like,
quaking in your boots over replacing that nut.
yeah, I didn't want to go that deep.
Because it's so good now. Right.
Yeah, it's like I'm buzzing like, but
Yeah, I wouldn't want to have to replace this now because we've got it sounding good now.
Yeah. It takes a while though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Guitars, especially acoustic guitars, I've never really been, you've got so many more, available and more experience with using them. But does it take a while for a guitar for you, like in age, to start to really work?
Yeah. It's probably we're getting used to it too.
It's probably
Like-
feeling the same about us, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
I wonder if I'm ever going to get this player to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like they have little personalities.
Yeah.
I mean, but we're not alone in that concern over changing your top nut.
It's a frightening ordeal.
It's frightening. I I think if the local rumor mill is correct, that Leo Kottke has sold a guitar many times because he had his tech change the top nut and he didn't like it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just like we're putting that one back in circulation. Yes, a friend of mine has one of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was because it's an otherwise, it's a beautiful guitar, one of his main stage guitars. And he had his tech change the top nut, picked it up, did not like it. No, we're getting a new one.
Yep. The guitar's out of the rotation.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that top nut in these bridge saddles.
Okay.
It's like people quake in their boots about changing those if that's their stage guitar.
Yeah. Yeah. Bill Schwab did my telly.
Yeah, what a guy.
About the time period we're talking, too.
He was the guru, wasn't he?
Yeah. He threw it all graphic at the top of the nut. So top nut north is all graphite. There's no metal up there, except the tuners. So like the trees and all that.
Yeah,
shit.
and that's much more reliable.
Yeah, my tuning improved dramatically,
Yep.
and he got me off that double bridge, and got me that bridge. And yeah, I've got everything down so low it can't go any lower.
He got you the barrels, right?
What are they? This was something different.
Oh, that's
Those are
the
those-
individuals.
Yeah, and those were so flat.
Yeah.
You know that because I got pretty crazy with it, but yeah, this G is gonna just dig on me, and next thing you know, I can't play without a shim.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be there. Or I'm not gonna have an open G.
Yeah, you have to have an open G.
Yeah, I think G is the biggest chord we can make on a guitar.
We never get tired of it.
It's sure when you have to be